this is Lance Wallnow and Firewall with my trusty associate, Mercedes Sparks, giving you the actual perspective of things that most people don't tell you. That's why I love this program. I love this because I am not afraid to say what I need to say here. I have to always second guess myself when I'm on these other social media programs. But this is the place you can speak the truth. So I've got a thought I want to share with you about Rush. How many of you, we've got a chat going on right now, and many of you are coming out of the Bannon War Room. Love Bannon. Steve actually is the one that got me focused on this station in the first place, started listening to Bannon. And I realized the fourth turning, that great awakening that he talked about, that's the place that I'm stewarding in my own work. It's that awakening, and it's the mobilizing of some 40 million people of faith in this country to link their faith with the political climate so that we can actually shift this country, because it's a remnant of radicals have taken over the plane. Literally, if you're looking at these executive orders, it's not Biden. Biden is incapable of doing this. It's like this is the big mischief. Biden's executive orders, forget about that. He's an empty suit. He's half there. It's somebody's pushing this in front of him. It's the machinery of the Obama administration doing the damage on Trump's agenda to get Obama's next term through Biden materialized. By the way, it doesn't come to maturity till Harris is in that seat. Remember, I told you that. But in the meantime, Providence has a plan, and we have to just trust Providence, especially when someone like Rush Limbaugh passes on and leaves us right there. Who would have thought a year ago that Donald Trump wasn't going to be president and Rush Limbaugh would not be there behind his EIB mic, stewarding us kind of like a patriarch through the trauma, building 30 years worth of credibility and what I call a secular prophet. This guy could nail it. I listen to him more than charismatics and Pentecostals when it comes to anything going on in culture, because he actually perceived with, I believe, a gift from God. So let's take a look at a quote from Jason Matera from the Falkirk Center. I love Jason. He is a young Rush himself. He grew up with Rush in his father's cars. We go into basketball. His dad would play him. Rush always reminded his audience that liberalism could never win on its own terms. It had to be masked in do-gooder rhetoric. This is the part I want you guys to catch, because Jason nails it here. He ran a master's course for conservatives in decoding that rhetoric. This is what we've got to do. Whether it came from left-wing politicians or the stenographers in the press. The drive-by media, as Rush dubbed them, didn't matter what the topic was: climate change, universal health care, or most recently, presidential norms that Trump supposedly obliterated. And Rush always knew how to get down to the real heart of the matter and expose it as such. This is what we need right now, because the obsession by those in D.C. to control our lives and livelihood means that the press and the policymakers are doing this extraordinary kind of voodoo work every day to deceive the masses with the rhetoric of what they're saying, the narrative they create, and then they turn around and pass these policies that are sugar-coated in the most, it's almost like the arsenic is buried in the pie so that it tastes like a pie till it kills you, and every policy they come up with is killing and destroying America. Mercedes, welcome to today's broadcast. You have thoughts on Rush that are especially personal.
I definitely do. I mean, just like Jason, you're talking about, he was riding in the car with his dad, listening to Rush. I mean, I grew up the same way. I have vivid memories of driving in the car with my dad, me in the back seat, honestly, from the time I was in a car seat. And every time we'd go under those power lines, the AM station would fade to static. Rush would start to fade out. And my dad, every single time without fail, would turn the radio up just to try to make out what Rush was saying. And so I find it amazing that you have a whole generation that, like myself, of Rush babies. I mean, even my daughter, Rush grandbabies in some cases, that have grown up listening to Rush and being discipled by Rush, and then having our parents explain to us, this is what he's meaning and this is what that means. Meanwhile, while higher education's been taken over by left-wing radicals. Rush has been discipling future generations for the last 30 years. And so he's very near and dear to my heart. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for Rush, like many of you. I remember driving in a convertible in South Florida one time, and I was howling at one of Rush's parodies. I pull up to a stoplight, and I look to my right, and the gentleman there, he's howling at the radio, and we both look at each other, and we go, Rush? And we realized we're both listening to the Rush Limbaugh program at the same time. I had a job with Leadership Institute because I heard one of the Leadership Institute advertised on his program, and that led to me working for Mel Martinez. And here I am today working with you and pushing more and more into politics, upholding and fighting for the conservative ideals that Rush put in all of us. And so I like to say all of that mainly not to brag on me, but to brag on Rush and to say all of my success, just like many of you, all of these things that we're fighting for, we have Rush to thank for that. And Rush shares in so much of what we're doing today. So I'm forever and eternally thankful for Rush and for just his presence on this earth.
And if you've never had an experience of hearing Rush, and listening to him, I want to share a video sample right now of and this is, by the way, this courageous man fought all the way through his stage 4 cancer and was on that mic with somebody like right in the room next door in case he collapsed and couldn't finish. This kind of dedication to a calling like this is so rare, and he never once complained or murmured or went victim. He stayed clear and congruent and courageous and humble and thankful all the way to the end. So imagine this is just a week or so before he passes away. But listen to what he had to say.
Whatever Trump calls himself, party ID-wise, to me is not relevant. It's what his agenda is. And he still has the best agenda of any politician, short of Reagan, in my lifetime. Make America great again. There's a reason 75 million people voted for Trump. There's a reason that when he made that trip down the escalator on June 5th of 2015, there was a reason that he had majority support in the Republican Party. And that is the people that voted for Trump know exactly what the left has been doing to our country. It's nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with white supremacy, nothing to do with white this or that. It has to do with the left destroying Western civilization, destroying the very culture this country was built on, destroying constitutional morality and the rule of law. It had nothing to do with race. It had nothing to do with white people thinking their country was being taken away from them, made to be safe. Nothing to do with that at all. But that's what the left says it was about. They never gave up on that. They're wrong about it. But people were livid over this. They were livid being called racists. They were livid when they heard that they wanted to return to slavery. That's what the Democrats were saying the Trump agenda was about. Just a crock. It was always about a great country. It was always about making America great again for everybody who lives here, for everybody who's here legally. It was not complicated. Make America great again is not something that you need a PhD to understand. It is so simple, people glommed onto it like white on rice. They loved it. It's why they're still there. And they still believe it can happen, and it can. The Trump MAGA agenda can succeed. It will succeed again the next time it's implemented because it resonates with millions and millions of people. It's going to really resonate after 2 years of the Democrat tearing this country apart, which they're going to do. The Democrats are going to tear this country apart, value by value. Tradition by tradition, institution by institution, they're going to tear it apart. They're going to make America long and hope and desire for the America of their youth, which was great. And there was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing wrong with the Ozzie and Harriet version of America. There was nothing wrong with the Beaver Cleaver version of America. There was nothing wrong with America then. The Democrats are going to make something wrong with America. They're going to turn it into something it was never intended to be. And the more they do that, the greater the opportunity we're going to have to make America great again. The Trump agenda will not die, no matter what he calls it. Republican, independent, take your pick. Doesn't matter to me.
And there it is. That's the prophet's call to our generation. We have to let the message get out. We have to somehow trumpet that message that everything that is going to be happening from January 20th forward, everything that has happened and is unfolding, we have to park this at the door of the Democrats and the deceptive, duplicitous, destructive agenda that they are selling to youth in the curriculum they've got in the college campuses and through the entertainment networks that they have. And it's going to require tremendous courage. It's going to require tremendous courage. People wonder about Rush's faith. Many people of faith have been concerned about that. One of the last things that he said was, you could bring that cartoon up there, I want people to see this, that one of the last condolences that Rush gave was that he did have a relationship with Jesus. His brother is a very strong evangelical, played an enormous role in David Limbaugh in converting his brother Rush. But Rush kept his faith as an assurance personally, and then would leak it out to people as appropriate. And I really believe the persecution of Christianity and of Judaism is going to be more pronounced because the left will want to claw America apart, and that is the greatest resistance they've got, is the spiritual awakening that is in the bowels of America ready to surge forth. When we come back, we're going to talk about how we have to organize in order to overcome the opposition.
As a pandemic wreaks havoc and angry mobs burn our cities, Lance Wallnau explains why this is happening and takes you into the ancient text he describes as God's Chaos Code. This is the exciting sequel to Lance's best-selling book, God's Chaos Candidate, where he predicted Donald Trump would be president. God's Chaos Code predicts this exact moment in history and what is coming next.
When you're in the midst of shaking and uncertainty, the one thing that can give you confidence is knowing what God has said about the time that you're in. If the Lord tells you ahead of time what's going to happen, you can be certain things are going to be working out. The Lord has given us that code in the Bible. He's told us what's coming in America, what's coming to the nations. He's literally given us the chaos code. We can understand what's happening and be awakened in the midst of it. You need to understand and get this chaos code.
You need to know the code. Order God's Chaos Code now at godschaoscode.com.